Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are talking about the Orville once again. Yes, season 3 already ended. I thought it was one of the best seasons of the Orville because at least it was allowed to take itself a little more seriously, unlike when they were on Fox and they had to stick more toward a comedy. But anyway, I came across this article from ScreenRant about a couple of days ago, and I think they bring up some good points here. In that and that's the case of the Orville can now perfectly copy the Star Trek TOS crew's return. Star Trek the original series ended after season 3, but the crew returned for 6 movies, which could save the Orville's uncertain future. Yes, for those that don't know, season 3's final episode, I believe was called Future Unknown or Unknown Future. It was something akin to that, but here we go. The Orville Season 3 has come to a close, providing a chance for the show to replicate the triumphant return of the Star Trek The Original Series cast. Seth MacFarlane's sci-fi comedy drama is a loving tribute to Star Trek, particularly its 1990s iterations. Yes, it is more inspired based on The Next Generation more than the original series. And if you watch season 3, spoiler alert for those of you that have not finished it yet, I know we're not even a week out after season 3 came to a close. They also set up their own version of the Dominion War that was present in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't intend to go too deep into spoilers. Again, mostly because we are not even a week removed from when the show came to a close. With a likable ensemble cast and a focus on tackling real-world issues through a sci-fi lens, The Orville has been cited as a better Star Trek show than some modern Trek shows. The Orville has also featured many Star Trek actors both in front and behind the cameras. Behind the camera, Will Riker actor Jonathan Frakes and Tom Paris actor Robert Duncan McNeil have both directed episodes. The most notable casting in front of the camera is Penny Johnson-Gerald as Dr. Claire Finn. She was on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, for those that don't know, who gives the Orville a Star Trek Deep Space Nine connection through her previous role as Benjamin Sisko's partner Cassidy Yates. However, the uncertain fate of the Orville after season 3 draws some unfortunate links with the fate of Star Trek the original series, while also hope for the future. I am really shameful on this article for not even referencing Robert Picardo comes into the Orville to play Alara's father, who, for those that don't know, Robert Picardo played the holographic Doctor on Star Trek Voyager, and he also played the holographic Doctor in at least 2 of the Star Trek TNG movies. I think he was in Insurrection. He was either in First Contact or Insurrection. I can't remember which. That's why I said he's in either 1 or 2 of the Star Trek TNG movies. But still, how can you not bring up Robert Picardo for, the most notable casting in front of the camera? He was one of the main guys on Voyager, and I haven't even seen a single episode of Voyager, and I know that. Come on. Okay, here we go. Enough of the outrage. If you're not, I get it. If you're not that big of a Star Trek fan, you might not pick it up because, hey, we have Penny Johnson-Gerald and Tom Paris and Will Riker himself. So that's pretty much it. Again, shame on them for not referencing Robert Picardo as Alara's father. Following low ratings on NBC, Star Trek The Original Series was canceled after 3 seasons in 1969, airing its final episode just over a month before humans first landed on the moon. It feels like a cruel twist of fate, but perhaps the real-life scientific advances of the space race were more exciting to audiences than the fictional ones of the Enterprise crew. Seth MacFarlane's show faces a similar problem, and the Orville Season 4 is currently in doubt. The cancellation of Star Trek the Original Series in 1969 was not the end of the Enterprise crew's story, however, and they returned 4 years later for Star Trek the Animated Series in 1973 and for Star Trek the Motion Picture in 1979. In the face of uncertainty about future seasons, a series of Orville movies could, like the original Star Trek movies, secure the show's legacy. Now, before I go on any further, this article does not bring up this one important fact, and that is how Star Trek the Motion Picture came to be. Star Trek the Motion Picture did not come to be because of the reruns of the original series. Yes, Star Trek the original series was successful in reruns after long after its cancellation, hence why they came out with Star Trek the Animated Series, which I think lasted 2 seasons. But the reason why Star Trek the Motion Picture was made was due to the success of Star Wars. And every movie studio at that time was looking through their back catalogs or anything that they had of, oh fuck, what do we have to capitalize on the popularity of the Star Trek? And that led to the creation of Battlestar Galactica, the attempted resurgence of Flash Gordon with Sam Jones, which is actually a pretty good movie if you haven't seen it. It's completely ridiculous, but it's actually pretty decent if you want to check it out. Also led to Star Trek the Motion Picture. The list goes on and on, guys. I'm just listing stuff off the top of my head. I don't have a complete list in front of me, but yes, before we went on, I wanted to make sure to tangent, because they're not bringing up the fact that Star Trek the Motion Picture would not have been a thing had it not been for the success of Star Trek. Just, to keep that in mind. That's something that Star Trek has that the Orville unfortunately doesn't have. But anyway, let's get back and let's continue on with this article. One of the main problems facing the Orville Season 4 is that the cast was released from their contracts after they completed filming Season 3. Depending on how successful the actors are in securing long-term future projects, reuniting the Orville crew for another 10-episode season could prove difficult. This wasn't a problem for the Star Trek movies, as the series entered the 1980s, allowing William Shatner to juggle his titular role in T.J. Hooker with reprising Captain Kirk. Family Guy's Seth MacFarlane, who creates, writes, directs, and stars in the Orville, has multiple TV projects, including an upcoming TED show, which, let's be honest, nobody fucking asked for a TED series that's coming to Peacock. I mean, the first movie was okay. The second movie is kind of forgettable. But who asked for a TED show? I think it's going to go over like a fart in church, if you ask me personally right now. Therefore, an Orville movie every few years could be an easier prospect for MacFarlane than mounting a full season. The Orville Season 3 has already experimented with feature-length storytelling, with many of the episodes clocking in at almost 80 minutes long. Some come pretty damn close to, 90 minutes in length. Some of the episodes have been action-packed epics, such as the sci-fi horror movie episode Shadow Realms. That was a really good episode. That's the second episode of the third season. Or the Orville Star Wars-inspired episode Domino. Correction, there were some parts of that episode were inspired by Star Wars, but Domino, that's the season 3. That's the 9th episode of the third season. Domino was more of a remake of Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. Again, it was as if Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country and Star Wars came together and had a baby. That's the best way to describe that episode. The show's visual effects team has previously received an Emmy for their impressive VFX work and pushed themselves even further throughout the Orville Season 3. As the show is already delivering movie-level storytelling in VFX, the Orville's exploration of the new horizons of movie making is the logical next step. Despite the show's astute political commentary, the Orville doesn't have the same cultural cachet as Star Trek the original series, which makes a theater release for a potential Orville movie unlikely. However, the show's future is currently dependent on how well it performs when it moves to Disney Plus in August. I think it's at the end of August is when it's coming to Disney Plus, the end of August 2022. The current streaming landscape favors IPs with a demonstrable fan base, and as viewers make their love of the Orville known on social media, a series of streaming exclusive movies could be seen as a viable option for the show's future. If the Orville cannot return for a 4th season, I would, personally speaking for myself, I would be okay with having them go to a series of movies, again, akin to what Star Trek did. Futurama did that. They had the 4 movies in between. What seasons were they? Were they I think they were seasons 5 and 6. In fact, I know the 4 Futurama movies actually were spliced up to make an entire season on television. But with the Orville going to movies, what that does is it forces Seth MacFarlane and the other writers to cut out a lot of the crap. Because if you're only coming back for a movie, let's say every 2 to 3 years, okay, the next Orville movie is going to be an event, and you have to make it worth the audience's time to tune in, which means you can't really make episodes like Geloja, which, you know, sure, they're fine. That episode was fine on its own, but in reality, you could probably skip it and be just fine. You know, you can't make episodes like Geloja. You have to be making stuff like either Shadow Realms or Domino. Those 2 episodes in season 3 are really good examples of what they would have to make. And I think it's going to be a lot easier to do that than to do a full-on series. But again, that's just me. I want to know what you guys think. Would you rather see a true 4th season, or would a series of movies suffice? Personally, I think a series of movies could suffice as a full season. But another problem being is that a lot of these actors are getting older, and I think Seth MacFarlane is now entering his 50s. So that is something that we're going to have to be careful of, is age and how much of a time jump are the movies going to have to take. You know, what Star Trek the Motion Picture, the benefit that movie had was time. It was released 10 years after Star Trek went off the air, so the actors being a lot older just made sense chronologically of, well, you know, okay, it's been 10 years, but if all of a sudden, let's say, you know, heaven forbid, Seth MacFarlane starts going gray a little bit, you know, now are we going to have a situation where the movies are going to have to time jump, you know, 10 years and basically pull what Firefly did, where there was obviously a lot of setup that was missing prior to that movie coming out. But anyway, guys, I'm rambling on and on and on, so I'm going to end this right now before I drag this out way longer than it needs to be. So guys, if you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following along, you know I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.